On this edition of the Seacoast Sports Forum, we have as our special guest the executive director of the New Hampshire, and I always have to take my time doing this, Jeff, the New Hampshire
Interscholastic.
Interscholastic Athletic Association, better known as the NHIAA to me. And Jeff is our special guest today. Jeff, end of what I considered a successful, pretty uncomplicated sports season for Granite State teams this year. What about you?
Yeah, it was great. Great end of the year. Certainly, the spring season challenges, early on with snow and weather, and kind of late with the rain coming in. But heck, it's New Hampshire, so you got to expect those things. And I think the ADs did an incredible job of getting the games in, getting the kids out there and playing, and ended up championship Saturday with a lot of good contests across the state.
And what I was impressed by this year is, we have traditional powerhouses in the state in the different divisions, but you got some up and coming teams making their mark as well.
Yeah, it's great to see, right? Obviously you don't want to take away from the accomplishments of the powerhouses, but when other schools that haven't necessarily been to the dance before find their way into semifinals and championship games, it's great for the state. There's no doubt about it.
And I was going to say the structure of the divisions. There's always been, why is a team in Division One as opposed to Division Two? Now, answer that, I guess, question for me, because I get asked it a lot. Is it the individual committees of the different sports, or how is that decided?
Yeah, our bylaws. Well, we have one committee, classification committee, that sets the cutoffs, if you will, for each division. So for each division in the baseball, softball, boys and girls basketball, and boys and girls soccer. So they set that, and then all the other sports, the cutoffs of the school population size is set by the individual sports committees.
Okay.
And from there, schools have the opportunity to petition up or petition down by sport as well.
And what about scheduling? That's the other question that people ask me. I'll give you for instance, this year in baseball, the two top teams, Pinkerton Astros and the Exeter Bluehawks, having just phenomenal seasons, but they never matched up in the season. So it went to a tiebreaker. How was that decided they didn't get to play this year?
Yeah, scheduling is done 100% by the athletic directors. The NHIAA has nothing to do with the scheduling for the regular season. Those are decisions that are made within each division. So the scenario that you just pointed out with regard to baseball and Pinkerton and Exeter not playing each other during the regular season, that was just a factor of the athletic directors who were putting the schedule together, and Pinkerton wasn't on Exeter's and vice versa.
Okay, well, thank you for the clarification, because somebody was asking me that a lot, and I just didn't have a solid answer other than what you just said. I thought it was the athletic directors, but I know there is a baseball.
Yeah, it's a bit of a misnomer that the NHIAA gives every school a schedule. That is not the case at all. We actually collect them from all the schools, and quite frankly, that's what we're doing the day after spring tournaments end. We're going through all the fall schedules right now, making sure that there's no duplications or incorrect. Everybody has the right amount of games and things of that nature.
And that's the other question I was asking. I'm going to ask you, as far as teams in state, Granite State teams playing out of state teams, what is the prerogatives for that?
Yeah, that's absolutely allowed. They need to be members in good standing of their own state associations, because pretty much we're all playing by the same rules and federation rules, but they have to be a member in good standing of their own state association. That is allowed. Our requirement is that you play a minimum number of games within your division in order to qualify for the state tournament. But above and beyond the minimum and up into the maximum, you're free to add schools to your schedule as you wish.
Okay, all right. Again, that just helps me out, because people come to me and ask me that question, and I'm like, I'll get to the root
I'll
of
get
it.
back to you.
I'll get back to you and I'll find out. Find out a good source, and you're a good source, obviously, and that's why I'm asking today. Well, we got to, and I say you were at the game. We got to witness the Division I lacrosse championship contest between the Bishop Girton Cardinals being victorious over Bedford Bulldogs, and Bishop Girton winning their fourth straight title, and a record-breaking 13th for the head coach, Chris Cameron. And I thought it was fitting that Brian O'Reilly was part of the awards ceremony along with you on the field, presenting the championship plaque to Coach Cameron, since it was Coach O'Reilly, and he's a legendary coach, not only in football at Pinkerton Academy, but at Pinkerton in lacrosse. And he had had 12 lacrosse championships with the Astros. So that was quite a game, and quite a day and quite an event.
Yeah, I tell you what, those two individuals have forgotten more lacrosse than any of us would ever know in our entire lifetime. Just outstanding coaches, building programs, getting kids engaged and involved. So, yeah, it was kind of apropos to having both of those guys out there on the field after that game.
And I imagine, Brian has had again a big career, legendary career with the Astros, both in football and lacrosse, and I'm sure he's happy for Chris Cameron. The records are made to be broken.
Yeah, I don't, I, again, I wouldn't hazard to guess to get into Brian O'Reilly's head or whatever, but I think Brian, you know, his program goes back uh, further than anybody. I would hazard a guess. Pinkerton Academy is one of the first lacrosse playing schools in the state, if not the first, and really built a solid, powerful program there. Um, it's amazing to have that much knowledge out there on the field at the same time. And
Mm.
having Brian there, he's the chairman of the lacrosse committee, and he's been around for many, many years and done some incredible things, and really I would say, exposed the state of New Hampshire to the sport of lacrosse, and it's really caught on and caught fire here in the state.
It has. It has. As a matter of fact, I've been involved with doing the public address announcing for the past couple of seasons for the Blue Hawks, and I mean, it is an exciting sport. If people haven't paid attention to it,
Yeah.
uh, I think it's time. I mean, it really is. If they enjoy basketball, hockey, football, especially the
Yeah.
boys lacrosse,
Uh,
girls lacrosse, a little more complicated, but it's just as exciting.
Yeah, it is a great sport. There's no doubt about it. My high school didn't have it. I played baseball, but you know me well enough by now. Helmet sports are pretty good for me. I should probably be wearing a helmet here so nobody really sees this face. But you know, uh, my own son turned from baseball to lacrosse. Helmet sports are good for the Collinses, I guess.
I like to tell the story. When my first exposure to lacrosse was back in 1970 something or other, when I was in Exeter High School, freshman year. Our athletic director at the time was Dick Eustace, and Phillips Exeter Academy had a bunch of old lacrosse equipment. And of course, back in those days, it was the old wicker style,
Yep.
and there were no helmets, there were no pads. And so when we went out for PT, let's go out and have some fun, kids. Let's play lacrosse today. And wow, I mean, it was like it was an experience. It was more like check the ball and see who could take somebody out. That was what it was. And phys ed was a little physical when it
Right.
came to lacrosse.
My first exposure to it was at UNH when they still had lacrosse there. A friend of mine who was playing football with me was a linebacker. He said during spring we got out a lift or something like that, and he said, "Hey Jeff, you gonna come watch me play lacrosse?" I'm like, "I've never watched lacrosse before," and boy, it was fun sitting there watching this big linebacker playing defense with a huge stick at the time. I'm like, "Whoa, I can't believe that this is a sport." So it was fun.
Yeah. Yeah, it's amazing how some of these what would be called a niche or niche sport have taken on, and now that's being exposed on ESPN and the other sports networks too. I
Yeah,
think kids are
yeah,
getting into it.
I would say so. But again, it provides opportunities for kids to play, right?
Right.
So
Right.
I mean, you have another sport that has multiple kids, and with the sport of lacrosse, it's you. You're not just playing, you're starting whatever. You have to have additional middies. You have to have additional defensemen. You have to have, you know, it provides a lot of opportunities to get in games and continue on and play. So anything, that's kind of our bent, is whatever we can do to get more kids involved in their sport and in their school, really,
Right.
ultimately, for the Exeter kids to wear the Exeter jerseys, the Pinkerton kids to wear the Pinkerton jerseys, BG, whatever it is. We want that to happen because we know kids do better academically when they are connected into their school.
Right. And I see a lot of the student athlete, multi-sport student athletes now. They go from a season to a season, or they may skip a season, but they try to keep, you
Yeah,
know, keep
yeah.
going.
The day and age of the three sports student athlete are kind of fading away, but certainly we still take the time to honor those kids. They're kind of the old school kids, the grinders,
Right. Right.
and some of those smaller schools that we have a part of our association, they rely upon the three sport athletes to field teams. So they are still out there, but it's not as prevalent as it once was.
Now going into 2024, 2025 season, that's scary to say, but time moves along fast here. What are your hopes for the sports programs, student athletes? You foresee any major changes or division breakouts or rules and
Yeah, no,
regulations?
no divisional change in alignments that happens every 2 years. So
Okay.
nothing major there on that front. We are heading into the first year of the new cycle that we call it division cycle. So we're heading into that. No real changes, nothing new on the horizon. We do have we offered our first state championship plaque in esports this past year. We hope to see the growth of that and continued growth of that. But again, looking forward to continued sportsmanship, positive sportsmanship on the field. We hope that we can fill our ranks, if you will, for officials as we move forward. That
I'm
is
glad you brought that up. I'm glad you brought that up. That was going to be my next question.
right. There's an officials shortage across the country. And we are not immune to that here in the state of New Hampshire. So getting people engaged and involved in a meaningful, positive way into sport. There was a very interesting study done out of Michigan a number of years ago, and they've been fairly successful in getting referees to fill their ranks. And they found that people kind of like me and you at one point in time, where the sports empty nesters, when the
Hmm.
kids go through 4 years of high school and they graduate and they go on to college, and if they're not
Right.
playing sport, the parents, the sport parent empty nesters, they found a great amount of success of getting those people engaged and involved in refereeing. So, constantly looking for referees for all sports, because that's going to be a challenge as we move forward.
And if anybody would be interested in becoming an official, they can go to the NHIAA.org webpage, correct?
Right to our webpage, right at the top of the page, it says become an official. So that's a direct link to the sports officials organizations that oversee the training of these individuals. And hopefully we can get you out there sometime soon.
Well, I hope people take advantage of that, because years ago when my son was involved with basketball, and both my older kids were in basketball, my daughter as well. I wanted to know more about the sport, and I did take the basketball referee academy, and I learned a lot about the sport and respected those guys a lot. I just had two bad wheels; I couldn't keep up with it. That was my problem. But the fact is that if people know the rules of the game, they can respect the officials more, and also understand why things happen the way they happen sometimes.
Yeah, I mean, look, I think we're kind of in a day and age where people are getting all over officials, but in the end, they're a necessary part of the game,
Yeah.
as necessary as the kids coming out there. Who's going to officiate these things, and what games can go on if we don't have officials? So it is really important that people, I think the first part of your statement was absolutely true, to learn more about the game. I mean, I played a sport all my life, and there are still subtle nuances of the games of football and baseball and wrestling that, either I've forgotten or I didn't really know about. So, and rules change, it was a long time since I've been in high school, but rules do change over time as well. So I think staying informed about it, but the perspective of the fans in the stands and things like that is really important too.
I don't know if it's practical from a monetary standpoint for these different officials organizations, but now that the internet is such a tool, to come up with maybe a video preseason for each sport and just give the the viewer, but also the parent a chance to know what the rules of the game are and any updates to the rules. That way, they just so they get a little more protection on the field. I feel bad a lot of times, some of the lip that I hear in the stands from fans towards the officials. And maybe if they, if that was out there, you could, I'd be glad to tell a parent, hey, go to the website such and such, www dot whatever, and learn the rules.
Yeah, I think, certain times people do know the rules. It just doesn't matter. It's just,
True.
that
It's the
whole
interpretation. Yeah. It's the interpretation of the rule. Yeah.
exactly. I mean, that's the industry of sport, right? There are how many radio stations and how many television stations or whatever, and all they do is all day long they talk about sport. So, I get it. When your kid's in it and it's passionate and you want to follow what's going on and you have passion about it, and you know that is the nature of the beast, if you will.
I want a couple of things quickly. I just want to ask you, and it doesn't involve state school, boy school, girls sports as it stands. And I hope it doesn't involve the rest of the 49 states at some point. But what's your take on what you're hearing in the college ranks for the NIL, which is name, image, likeness for making money, and also this college transfer portal thing?
Yeah, it's the new Wild West,
Yeah,
from a school's perspective, if I were a college coach, it's just crazy. There's it's to try to keep a team together and try to keep those kids together for 4 or 5 years in the redshirt situation, it's very, very difficult because the kids aren't going to be waiting their turn to start. They want to start right away, and if they're not starting in one place, they'll transfer to another without having to sit out a year. That was always the rule when I was playing in college. If you want to transfer, great, but you're going to lose a year of eligibility. That it's very difficult to keep that continuity. I heard something on sports radio that early one morning, I don't forget what morning it was, but now more and more people are rooting for the individual and not the jersey.
right.
It's kind of interesting. From a student athlete perspective, signing deals and making money based upon their name, image, and likeness. Well, I colleges and universities have been making money on kids' name, image, and likeness for many, many years now. So, I see both ends of it. But then you get, the booster clubs and who has the most money in booster clubs and pay, getting the best offensive lineman, you can across the United States in there to protect the quarterback, and you're incentivizing the offensive lineman. So there's so much engaged and involved with this whole thing. It's just it's a kind of a new era, if you will, of college interscholastic athletics.
The Wild West, as you said at the beginning. It
It
is.
is
It's kind of the wild, wild
really,
west.
it's different
Now,
than anything that we've experienced in our lifetimes.
now on the state level, are there rules in place to prevent, and I don't want to be too specific, but a student athlete going from one district to another or from one school to another?
Yeah,
How's that set up?
so that transfer portal that's non-existent in the state of New Hampshire.
Correct.
You have to live in the town and that you can participate for the school in the town in which you reside. So you have to be registered as a full-time student at that school, and in order to be enrolled as a full-time student, there's residency requirements in those schools in across the state of New Hampshire. So there's no, transferring because of athletic reasons or anything like that in the state of New Hampshire. As far as name, image, and likeness, we do not prevent kids from signing deals or anything like that. Our bylaws would never do that because, quite frankly, the United States Supreme Court says they can do that. So what we say in our bylaws is that, look, you cannot represent your school or the NHIAA in any way, shape, or form. But we're not going to stand in your way to capitalize on whatever it is you've been able to do. So we haven't really seen, some of the other states have seen some quite fairly lucrative deals signed by student athletes in their own state. But we haven't quite seen that here yet.
I'm going to say California, Texas, and Florida are probably three of the states that a lot of signings and a lot of extra cash going to somebody to keep them in high school, which is kind of odd,
Well, not keep them in high school, but basically a lot of these people are trying to sign deals early with kids. So when they
Yeah.
do go to college and in the pro ranks, they have them early. They have them locked in early.
Yeah, I was going to say the one example recently we saw, and I guess it's a warning for some of these student athletes coming out of college, or even ones that are going from high school directly into the pros. Some very few that happen to, but Caitlin Clark. I mean, look at she signed a big deal prior to going into the WNBA. Was highly touted throughout her college career with the NIL, name, image, likeness, and right now, I mean, she's getting the job done, but it's been a lot harder than she expected, I think, going into the pros.
Sure. I mean, there's a leap of what from every level you go up the rung, there's a huge leap, from high school to college, speed, quickness of the game and all that kind of stuff. And then, into the pros, it sounds like she's certainly making her way, but that all the hype around that has been great for female athletics. I mean, let's be honest. I mean, people are talking about it now on talk radio. They're talking about it on ESPN. They're talking about the WNBA. And that kind of exposure, it's hard for that individual who's the torchbearer, if you will, for that sport or for female sports. But look at the exposure.
Right. Yeah.
Eyes are now on it, positive, negatively, but eyes are on it, and I think that's a wonderful thing.
I was going to say with high school student athletes, I say this when I do any of the end of the year fairs. I said, enjoy your days, your high school days. Some of you will go on to college. Some of you will be playing in college, and some of you may actually make it to the pros. But just enjoy putting it out on the field or on the court, and get the best
Yeah.
feeling you can.
It all comes to an end. It doesn't matter who you are.
Exactly.
I mean, Joe DiMaggio, his playing days ended. I mean, Michael Jordan's playing days ended. It's an old coach that used to tell us all the time, play every game like it's your last, because one day it will be. That's what it's all about, and get the most out of it. And again, the sport is not necessarily about the winning piece. I mean, we talked about a little bit about the state championship, but truly it's the life lessons that are learned through this experience. The not winning is important as winning.
Exactly.
Deal with setback, how to deal with adversity, how to deal with working hard for a common cause, working together. These are skills that are so necessary in society and who we are, and moving forward and being successful in life. That's really what to me, that's what it's about. It's great, having kids hooting and hollering and hoisting state championship plaque and the medals and all that kind of stuff. That's obviously, an important piece to it, but the most important thing is the underlying, values and skills that thousands of kids across the state of New Hampshire are getting from very dedicated coaches and athletic administrators and school systems that are supporting these kids moving forward. So yeah, it's great to have a downtown parade or something like that. But in the end, it's those life lessons and those life friends that you
Right.
make
Right.
with your coaches, with your athletic administrators and whatever, because you know what? Oftentimes kids, when they go off into the next level, college or in the workforce or whatever, they may get stuck in a corner and they need to phone a friend. And I've heard more often than not that, they're calling their old high school coach, or they're calling a teammate, or they're calling their athletic director to say, hey, I'm in a bad way here. I need a little bit of help.
There you
And
go.
we're all educators, so it's all right, drop everything. We're gonna help a kid who graduated 6 years ago.
Right. No, there you go. And it brings up something I wanted to kind of cap things off today with. We mentioned two legendary coaches earlier, Brian O'Reilly and Chris Cameron. But I want to talk about someone who's been a mainstay for the NHIAA and various committees and boards. And he's in the Coaching Hall of Fame. And he's going to remain a mainstay on the football sidelines for hopefully many seasons to come. I'm speaking of Exeter High School in particular, but he will be retiring as the athletic director in just a few days now. That's Bill Ball. And I wanted to get your thoughts about Bill Ball and how he's affected your time with the NHIAA.
Yeah, I tell you, it's hard to put into words, exactly, you know, Billy's impact on the state of New Hampshire. I think first and foremost, Billy is a teacher and an educator. I think that's above all else. That's really who he is, and it's not, as hard as much of a supporter he is for Exeter High School and the programs under his leadership and guidance at Exeter High School. He is an advocate for sport across the state of New Hampshire. So he's kind of that old school, if you will, type of individual who, is an advocate for, the sport of football, above just being the Exeter High School coach. So he is deeply entrenched in the lacrosse world. He's been there for us many, many times for hosting state championship events, state tournament events. He gets it. And he wants to provide opportunities for kids and a showcase for those kids. So I think the greatest compliment that I can pay him to pay Billy is that he's a teacher. And he's one of the best teachers that I've seen in many, many years and over my tenure in education. He teaches kids. We talked about the life lessons of sport. That's what's more important than anything else. So, and he's had a great impact and a great influence on many, many new athletic directors, new coaches, new administrators across the state of New Hampshire. So it's hard, when being in this position for as many years as I have. I used to feel the same way being a principal. The some of these people that are going off into retirement, you never want to see them leave because they've just been such a great mentor for many, many people across the state of New Hampshire, including me. But he's deserved it. He deserves, he and his wife deserve some time to themselves and what have you. I'll never begrudge him for that. But a little part of you is like, man, I can't believe Billy's going to be out of here. But again, just a true, you throw around the terminology. The term is legend. You talk about Brian O'Reilly and Billy Ball, and you're talking about legends in the state of New Hampshire. And it's tough to replace those people, and I don't know if you ever will. But we're losing a few very good ones. The Concord athletic director is leaving after this year. Another gentleman who believes in protecting the state of sport as much as, providing for the kids at Concord. So it's going to be an interesting year. We're losing some and Peter Watton over in Dover. You're losing three of the Titans, if you will, legends in high school sports in the state of New Hampshire. So,
But you'll have Bill Ball on the sidelines for years to come, I
yeah,
hope, and
yeah,
that'll always
we
make it
will, we
interesting.
will,
Yeah,
we'll have him for a number of years, and I think it's a great thing. I still, watching him interact with the kids, even during this tournament season, he gets fired up about being kids, but that's what an educator is.
right.
You get excited about being around, that the youth, and their excitement. You feed off of that.
He was the commencement speaker at the Exeter High School graduation a few days ago. And one line he said, I just jotted it down here so I could pass it on to the viewers and listeners. It was, as you progress, remember, respect can't be purchased. That's how he capped off his commencement address to the student body. And that's the type of guy he is.
Without a doubt. I mean, he's one of the most respected people in the state of New Hampshire. He's a go-to person for athletic directors across the state. But the wonderful thing about Billy is he still questions himself, and he still calls up here. I mean, he's been around. He probably helped write half of the bylaws of the state of New Hampshire, but he still calls up and questions. So it's that give and take. That kind of sets him apart and makes him special.
Well, he's a special person, and I'm glad that even though he is retiring as AD, we'll see him for a long time to come at William Ball Stadium.
Yeah.
Well, summer doesn't mean vacation for the NHIAA. A couple of months to prep for what we hope is going to be another exciting sports season for the student athletes in New Hampshire, and so you're like you say, you're already in go mode for fall.
Yeah, we're looking at schedules. We're looking at sanctioning events for coming up this fall. All last week is kind of crazy week for us with semifinals and finals going on, but we're getting fall tournaments, all set up and running. And it's there's a quick changeover. There's no doubt about it, and trying to front load as much work as we possibly can to get ready for this upcoming season. But certainly after this weekend and a long year, there's no doubt about it. Everybody deserves a little bit of rest and a little downtime. Heal up, get healthy, and let's get ready to go in the come the fall.
Well, you guys are like a NASCAR pit crew. You keep everything moving.
Yeah, we have to. We owe it to the kids, don't we?
That's exactly right.
We have to get it straight. We have to get it set because we owe it to them.
That's right. That's right.
Why we do this.
Absolutely. Well, I'm glad we got to touch base. I decided this year we'd wait until everything was over and we have a few minutes where we could just kind of relax and talk for a few minutes. And I appreciate you coming on board today. And our special guest, Jeff Collins, the executive director of the New Hampshire Interscholastic Athletic Association. Yay, I got it right.
Hey, and quick shout out and thank you for all of your help at Billy Ball Stadium, all of our championship events, UNH, being kind of the voice of the NHIAA at a number of these events. I can't thank you enough. Again, you're one of those people that gets it,
Well,
lending your time and your expertise and your talents to making these events as special as possible. So I'd be remiss if I didn't thank you for everything that you do.
Well, I appreciate that. And, it is a labor of love. Somebody said to me a long time ago, I think this will be the 30th season for the football this year. I know it was 30 for basketball last year, and I started a year later with the football PA announcing. And years and years ago, somebody said to me up in the booth, well, which kid's yours? And I said, all of them.
All of them.
And he looked at me and goes, huh? I said, yeah, I'm here for all of them. Actually, I didn't even have a boy. My boy didn't play football, so there was nobody on the field other than just all our team guys. That's who we were supporting, and all the kids, not just. I tried to be fair. That's the one thing I will say. These are kids out there. They're not pro athletes. Right. These are not people being paid to play, and they're having fun, hopefully. And sometimes things don't go the way they should on the field or on the court. Hey, you don't rub it in. It's good. When I took the job 30 years ago as PA announcer, I told this last show, when I took the announcer's job for the basketball 30 something years ago, Cass Donovan handed me the script for the first game. She said, okay, good sportsmanship. Yep. She said, you're not doing play by play. Yep. And she said, you're not a clown. And you know what? Somebody said 2 out of 3 ain't bad, but I tried to live up to all 3 of those. You know,
I'm looking forward to the fall to hear your tagline, "First and 10 Blue Hawks," echoing through Billy Ball Stadium. So
well, I'm looking forward to that as well. Jeff, have a good summer and gang up the NHIAA. We'll stay in touch with you, and anything comes up, feel free to let us know here on the Seacoast Sports Forum.
Will do. Thank you, Sherm.
Be sure to subscribe to Exeter TV on YouTube and hit the bell to get notified about new episodes of the Seacoast Sports Forum and other local content. Follow the Sports Forum team behind the scenes on our Facebook and Twitter pages, and send us your game footage and photos to our email. That's seacoastsportsforum.extv@gmail.com. This is Sherm Chester inviting you to join us for the next edition of the Seacoast Sports Forum.